Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories. The silence in the house had become a presence of its own, thick and heavy like the humid summer air pressing against the windows. Ever since Mark passed away 2 years ago, and especially after my son Leo went off to college last fall, the quiet had a way of creeping into every corner. It wasn't just the lack of noise, it was the absence of life, of shared breath, of the little routines that had once filled these rooms. I was rattling around in here, a ghost in my own home some days. Leo called, bless his heart, but he had his own life, his own worries. My friends tried, but everyone's busy, you know. Sometimes the loneliness felt like a physical weight on my chest. That afternoon, the weight felt particularly heavy. The air conditioner was struggling, wheezing like an old man, and the heat seemed to amplify the emptiness. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a half-finished crossword puzzle, the pen idle in my hand when the doorbell chimed. It startled me. I wasn't expecting anyone. Maybe it was just a package delivery. I smoothed down my apron, a habit I couldn't seem to break even though I rarely cooked elaborate meals anymore, and walked to the door, peering through the peephole. Standing on my porch, looking slightly uncertain, was David Miller. David. Leo's best friend, Jack's dad. He was holding a small toolbox, the metal kind, scratched and dented from years of use. I blinked, surprised. We weren't close friends, David and I acquaintances, really. We'd nod hello at school events, exchange pleasantries during soccer game pickups. His wife, Karen, and I were a bit friendlier, but David? He was always quiet, kept to himself mostly. A nice enough guy, just reserved. I opened the door, trying to arrange my face into a welcoming expression. David? Hi. Everything okay? He offered a small, hesitant smile. He looked tired, I noticed. Lines around his eyes I hadn't paid attention to before. He shifted the toolbox in his hand. Hi, Sarah. Sorry to bother you. I hope this isn't a bad time. He gestured vaguely towards the house. Leo mentioned to Jack. Well, Jack mentioned to me that your air conditioner was acting up again. Said you were having a tough time with the heat. My cheeks flushed slightly. Leo. Of course. My sweet, worrying boy, relaying my minor complaints across state lines. Oh, I said, feeling a mix of embarrassment and gratitude. It's struggling a bit, yeah. But please, you didn't have to come over. No bother at all, he insisted, his voice low and steady. I was just tinkering in the garage anyway. Figured I could take a quick look, if you don't mind. Sometimes it's just a simple fix, you know. Filter needs changing, maybe drain lines clogged. He wasn't pushy, just offering. Standing there on my porch, the sun beating down, his offer felt like more than just fixing an appliance. It felt like a small kindness in a world that had felt increasingly indifferent. Well, I hesitated, then stepped back, holding the door wider. That's incredibly nice of you, David. Please, come in. Don't mind the mess. He stepped inside, bringing with him the scent of sawdust and maybe a little motor oil. It was a strangely comforting smell, grounded and real. The house suddenly felt a little less empty with him standing in the entryway, looking around not with judgment, but with a sort of quiet observation. Don't worry about any mess, he said, his eyes briefly meeting mine. Life happens. He wasn't wrong. Life had certainly happened in this house. Joy, laughter, arguments, tears, and now, this quiet waiting. I led him through the living room towards the thermostat, conscious of the dust motes dancing in the afternoon light, slanting through the blinds, conscious of the pile of unopened mail on the side table. He followed, his footsteps solid on the hardwood floor. It was strange having another man in the house, someone other than Mark or Leo. Not bad strange, just different. Unfamiliar territory. He stopped at the thermostat, listened to the wheezing coming from the vents. "Yeah, sounds like she's working too hard," he murmured, more to himself than to me. "Mind if I check the unit outside first?" "Not at all," I said. "It's just around back." As he headed towards the back door, toolbox bumping gently against his leg, I lingered for a moment. Why asterisk had asterisk he come? Was it really just about the AC? Leo must have sounded pretty worried. Or maybe David understood something about this quiet house, this lingering sadness. Maybe he wasn't just Leo's friend's dad. Maybe he was just a kind man noticing someone might need a hand. I shook my head, telling myself not to read too much into it. He was just being neighborly. That's all. Still, a tiny, unfamiliar flutter started somewhere deep inside me. Not quite hope, but perhaps the possibility of it. I followed him outside into the oppressive heat. The air hung thick and still, smelling of hot asphalt and freshly cut grass from a neighbor's yard down the street. David had already knelt beside the big, noisy air-conditioning unit at the side of the house, the toolbox open beside him on the parched lawn. He had taken off the main panel, exposing the intricate-looking innards of the machine. He worked with a quiet competence, his movements economical and sure. There was something calming about watching him, the way his brow furrowed slightly in concentration, the deftness of his fingers as he checked connections and brushed away accumulated leaves and debris. I leaned against the warm brick of the house, arms crossed, watching him. "Can I get you something?" I offered after a few minutes of silence, broken only by the clink of metal tools and the drone of the struggling AC fan. "Water. Iced tea?" He glanced up, wiping a bead of sweat from his temple with the back of his wrist. "Water would be great, Sarah." "Thanks." His smile was brief but genuine this time, reaching his eyes. I went back inside, the coolness of the house, inadequate as it was, a relief after the baking heat. I filled a tall glass with ice and water, the cubes clinking merrily. As I stood at the sink, I caught my reflection in the window above it. Faint lines around my own eyes, hair pulled back messily, a smudge of ink on my cheek from the crossword. I'd looked, tired and lonely. Seeing David, unexpectedly here, doing something practical and helpful, highlighted my own inertia, the way I'd let things slide, both literally and figuratively. When I returned, he was examining the condenser coils. "Think I might see part of the problem," he said, pointing with a screwdriver. "Coils are pretty dirty. Restricts airflow, makes the whole system work harder and cool less efficiently. Happens easily with all the pollen and dust we get around here." He explained it simply, without making me feel stupid. Could probably use a good cleaning. "I have some coil cleaner in the truck if you want me to give it a shot." "Would you?" I asked, feeling a surge of relief. I wouldn't know where to start. "Happy to," he said, standing up and stretching slightly. He took the glass of water I offered, his fingers brushing mine briefly. A tiny spark, unexpected, like static electricity, but warmer. I pulled my hand back perhaps a little too quickly. He took a long drink, his Adam's apple moving. "Thanks, Sarah. That hits the spot." He went off towards the street where his sturdy-looking pickup truck was parked. While he was gone, I stayed by the AC unit, looking at the exposed wires and fins. It felt symbolic somehow. My life felt a bit like that, components not quite working together smoothly, clogged up with the debris of the past. David returned with a spray bottle filled with foaming cleaner. He applied it methodically to the coils, the foam expanding and starting to drip down, carrying dirt with it. "We let this sit for a bit, then rinse it off gently," he explained. We stood there in companionable silence for a few minutes, watching the cleaner work its magic. The quiet wasn't uncomfortable, surprisingly. It felt different from the heavy silence inside the house. This was a shared quiet, punctuated by the chirp of cicadas and the distant sound of children playing. "So," David said eventually, breaking the silence as he picked up a stray leaf from the top of the unit. "Leo enjoying his classes?" It was the standard parent question, the bridge we always used. "He is." I smiled, genuinely this time. "Loves the freedom, complains about the workload." Typical freshman stuff. "How's Jack doing?" "Same," he chuckled softly. Trying to balance engineering homework with wanting to go to every party on campus. Karen worries, but he's a good kid. They both are. They really are, I agreed. Talking about the boys felt safe, familiar ground. We chatted easily for a while, sharing anecdotes about their childhood antics, the challenges of letting them go, the odd mixture of pride and melancholy that came with an emptying nest. It struck me how little I actually knew about David, despite our sons being friends for years. I knew he worked in construction management, that he liked fishing, that he was generally considered a steady, reliable guy. But the man standing beside me now, sharing a quiet moment in the afternoon heat, felt more complex, more present than the peripheral figure I'd known. He finished rinsing the coils gently with the hose, the water sluicing away the dirty foam. He checked a few other things, tightened a connection, then replaced the panel, securing it firmly. "All right," he said, stepping back and wiping his hands on a rag he pulled from his back pocket. "Let's see if that helped." We went back inside. He adjusted the thermostat, and we waited. Within a minute or two, the air coming from the vents felt noticeably cooler, stronger. The wheezing sound was gone, replaced by a quiet, efficient hum. Relief washed over me. "David, that's amazing," I breathed out, a genuine smile spreading across my face. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done." "Glad I could help," he said, leaning against the doorframe, that quiet smile back again. Sometimes it's the simple things. He looked around the living room again, his gaze lingering for a moment on a framed photo of Mark, Leo, and me on the mantelpiece, taken on a beach vacation years ago. His expression softened almost imperceptibly. "It gets quiet, doesn't it?" he asked, his voice gentle. The question hung in the air, simple but profound. It wasn't just about the house being empty. He knew. He understood. My throat tightened. I could only nod, unable to speak for a moment. The easy chat about the kids dissolved, leaving something more vulnerable exposed between us. He wasn't just fixing my air conditioner. He was seeing the cracks in my composure, the dust on my life, and he wasn't judging. He was acknowledging it. And in that moment, the connection felt startlingly real, deeper than years of sideline small talk had ever allowed. The air conditioner hummed softly, efficiently now, pushing cool air into the room, a stark contrast to the heavy heat outside, and the sudden, unexpected warmth looming in my chest. David was still leaning against the doorframe, his gaze thoughtful, no longer looking at the photograph, but at me. There was an openness in his expression I hadn't seen before, a vulnerability that mirrored my own. "You know," he started, then hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. "Karen and I, we went through a rough patch a few years back, before Jack went to college. House felt too big, too quiet then too. Different reasons, same feeling." I was surprised by his candor. Karen always seemed so put together, their family life the picture of suburban stability. It was a reminder that you never really know what goes on behind closed doors, behind polite smiles at school functions. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said softly. "Is everything okay now?" He gave a slow nod. "Yeah, mostly. We worked through it. Took effort. But that feeling, that echo in an empty room, I remember it." His honesty was disarming. It chipped away another layer of my own reserve. I found myself wanting to share something real in return, something beyond the usual pleasantries. "It's the evenings," I admitted, the words tumbling out before I could second-guess them. "After dinner, Mark and I always. We had our routines. Watched TV, talked about our day. Now it's just me and the remote control, clicking through channels I don't even see." I hadn't said that out loud to anyone, not really. Not with that level of raw honesty. He didn't offer platitudes or easy answers. He just listened, his eyes holding mine. "Routines are hard to break," he said quietly. "Harder still when there's no one there to share the new ones with." He pushed himself off the doorframe and took a step further into the room, closing the distance between us slightly. He gestured towards the kitchen. "You mind if I wash up quickly before I head out?" "Oh, of course," I said, flustered for a second by the shift back to practicalities. "Down the hall, first door on the left." He nodded and headed down the hallway. I stood there for a moment, my heart beating a little faster than it should. This conversation felt significant, charged with an undercurrent of shared experience, of unspoken understanding. It was more intimate than any conversation I'd had in a long time, maybe ever, with someone I barely knew. When he came back, drying his hands on a paper towel, the brief spell seemed to have broken slightly. He picked up his toolbox from the entryway floor. "Well, hopefully that keeps things cool for you for a while," he said, his tone back to being more neighborly. "If it acts up again, don't hesitate to call. Seriously." "I won't," I promised. "And David, thank you. Really, not just for the AC." He met my gaze again, and the understanding was back in his eyes. "Anytime, Sarah." He reached for the doorknob, then paused, turning back slightly. "Listen," he said, his voice lower again. "This might be forward, but if you ever just want to, not face the quiet evening alone, maybe grab a coffee sometime. Or just talk." The offer hung in the air, unexpected, gentle. It wasn't a come on, not the way some men might have meant it. It felt like an extension of the kindness he'd already shown, an offer of simple companionship. Loneliness recognized loneliness. My throat felt thick again. Part of me, the cautious part that had kept everyone at arm's length for 2 years, wanted to politely decline, to retreat back into my safe, quiet shell. But another part, the part that felt soothed by his quiet presence, by his understanding, felt a flicker of something else. A possibility. I'd like that, David," I heard myself say, the words soft but clear in the cool air. A slow smile spread across his face, lighting up his features. Yeah, I confirmed, managing a small smile of my own. "Okay," he said, seeming genuinely pleased. "Okay, well, I'll let you know." He opened the door, the bright, hot sunlight flooding the entryway. He gave me one last look, a look that held warmth and a newfound connection, then stepped out onto the porch. "See you around, Sarah." "See you, David." I watched him walk down the path to his truck, his toolbox swinging lightly by his side. He got in, started the engine, and gave a brief wave before pulling away from the curb. I closed the door slowly, leaning my forehead against the cool wood for a moment. The house was quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. it wasn't empty. It was filled with the echo of shared vulnerability, the hum of a repaired air conditioner, and the surprising, tentative promise of a new connection. I walked back to the kitchen table, looked at the half-finished crossword, and realized I didn't feel like finishing it anymore. Something had shifted, not just in the temperature of the house, but inside me. A small, unexpected repair had taken place, and it had nothing to do with coils or coolant. The days following David's visit felt different. The air conditioner hummed along nicely, a constant reminder of his unexpected kindness. But more than that, the oppressive weight of loneliness seemed to have lifted just slightly. It wasn't gone entirely, of course. Grief and solitude don't vanish overnight. But the possibility of connection, the shared vulnerability in that conversation, had opened a small window in the closed-off room my life had become. I found myself tidying up the house with a bit more energy, clearing the pile of mail, even buying a few new flowering plants for the porch. Small things, but they felt significant. I hadn't heard from David immediately, and that was okay. His offer hadn't felt like something demanding urgency. It was a quiet suggestion, left gently on the table, and I trusted he would follow up when the time felt right for him, too. There was a sense of mutual respect in that unspoken understanding that I appreciated deeply. About a week later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unfamiliar number. "Hey Sarah, it's David Miller. Hope the AC is still behaving. Thinking of grabbing coffee at the Daily Grind tomorrow morning around 10 if you're free and still interested." My heart gave a little leap. I smiled as I typed back, "Hi David. AC is perfect, thank you. And yes, 10 tomorrow sounds lovely. See you then." The next morning, I took a little extra care getting ready. Nothing drastic, just chose a blouse I liked, put on a touch of mascara. It felt good to have a reason, however simple. The Daily Grind was bustling, filled with the aroma of coffee and baked goods. I spotted David sitting at a small table near the window, already nursing a mug. He looked up as I approached, and his face broke into that warm, quiet smile. "Morning, Sarah." "Morning, David." Sitting down opposite him felt surprisingly natural. We ordered coffee. A latte for me, black coffee for him, and the conversation flowed easily, picking up almost where we'd left off. We talked more about our kids, their adjustments to college life, our own experiences with the empty nest. He told me a bit about his work, the challenges and satisfactions of managing big construction projects. I talked about the library where I volunteered part-time, the people I met there, the comfort I found in books. We discovered shared interests, a love for old movies, hiking trails neither of us had explored in years, a mutual dislike for reality TV. But more importantly, we talked about the quieter things too. He spoke about the complexities of his long marriage, the way people change over time, the effort it takes to stay connected. Not complaining, just observing, reflecting. And I found myself sharing more about Mark, not just the sadness of his loss, but the shape of our life together, the good and the challenging. David listened patiently, intently, his gaze steady and compassionate. There was no judgment, no awkwardness, just quiet acceptance. It felt incredibly freeing to talk like that, to be seen not just as Leo's mom or Mark's widow, but as myself, a woman navigating the unpredictable currents of midlife. An hour slipped away like minutes. "You know," David said, swirling the last of his coffee in his mug, "it's nice talking to someone who gets it. The quiet house thing. The figuring out what comes next part. It is," I agreed sincerely. "Thank you for suggesting this, David. And for everything." "My pleasure, Sarah," he said, his eyes meeting mine across the table. There it was again, that spark of connection, deeper now, built on shared words and understanding. It wasn't romantic, not exactly, but it was profoundly emotional, a meeting of two souls who had found unexpected comfort in each other's company. As we left the coffee shop, blinking in the bright morning sun, there was no awkwardness about what came next. No pressure. "I should get going," he said. "Got a site inspection." "And I have my library shift," I replied. Well, he hesitated for just a second. "Maybe we could do this again sometime." "I'd like that very much," I said, and I meant it. He smiled, a genuine, broad smile this time. "Okay, take care, Sarah." "You too, David." I watched him walk towards his truck again, but this time felt different from the first. It wasn't just relief or surprise. It was a quiet sense of hope, a feeling of stepping out of the shadows, even just a little. That visit, prompted by a faulty air conditioner and a son's concern, had led to something completely unexpected. Not a whirlwind romance, not a dramatic life change, but something quieter, more subtle, and perhaps more meaningful. A connection forged in shared vulnerability, mutual respect, and the simple human need to be seen and understood. The house was still quiet when I got home, but now the silence felt less like an ending and more like a space waiting to be filled, not necessarily with noise, but with the gentle presence of possibility, of personal growth, and the quiet unfolding of whatever came next. And for the first time in a long time, I felt ready for it.